In this video, what I'd like to do is I want to show you guys how to replace the shielding gas bottle on your welder. More than likely, this bottle will have a 75-25 mix or a 90-10 mix. Those seem to be the two most popular styles. If you are working with a like a hardwire, you might get like a straight CO2 or something like that. But for the most part, I believe we use a 75-25 mix on almost everything around here. So like I was saying, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to actually replace this bottle. I'm gonna show you safe handling practices. I'm gonna show you how to put it back on, how to leak test it, and then also a little bit on how to set it to get the proper flow here, okay? So we're just gonna kind of go through the whole process. I'm gonna show you everything you're going to need to know. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So the first thing that we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna make sure that this valve is all the way turned off. Okay, this one has been left on for who knows how long. You always want to make sure you turn off your bottles in between each use, and especially when you're going to be removing the regulator off the side. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1 1/8" wrench, and I'm going to go ahead and remove it right here. Notice that I'm going to leave all of the hoses that are connected to this regulator hooked up, so that way I don't have to leak test those every time or when I go back together for it, okay? So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and break this nut, or this piece here. If it has a little bit of pressure, just go ahead and let that bleed off. All right, so go ahead, and now we can, after we get it loosened up, we can just go ahead and unscrew this. Okay, so now I got my regulator off. All I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set this off to the side on the welding cart. And remember, when I go back together, all I have to do is now leak test this one fitting as opposed to all of these fittings. So save yourself some time there, okay? So let's go ahead and let's take our blast cap. We wanna always put the blast cap on as soon as possible. Never wanna be running without one of these if possible. Just go ahead, screw it all the way down. Oftentimes people will grab the wrong blast cap and then it will not screw on correctly, or it'll get cross-threaded. Make sure you have the right one. Take the time, make sure it doesn't get cross-threaded, okay guys? Another thing I do right now is I take my tag here and I flip it over. So now it says, oops, sorry, I'll say it says empty, and it's on top of the bottle now. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to get the bottle off of the welder. Again, we have my blast cap on, we got my tag set correctly. The only thing that's really holding this bottle on is this chain right here. So I'm gonna go ahead, and it's just got a little hook on the back side. I'm just gonna move it around, and I try to get it as far out of the way as possible. At this point, I'm gonna take and I'm just gonna rock my bottle till it gets to the end of this little tray here. Now, this tray is kind of nice because it actually tilts, and then the bottle can make contact with the floor right here, just like this. So see that? And now it's out of the actual welding cart and it's ready to be moved. Now, there's two ways of moving these bottles. One, you can grab a cart. The other one is you can roll it. Now, to go out and replace this bottle, say we're gonna take it all the way out to the bottle rack outside, you wanna make sure you get a cart. But if you are gonna be doing something maybe a short distance, maybe a few feet, such as 5 to 10 feet, you can actually roll this bottle. So one of the things is we're just gonna tilt it on its side, and we're gonna just go ahead and roll it forward and then back, okay? You can do this, like I said, for short distances. Otherwise, we need to grab that bottle cart. So let me show you that really quick. So this is my, my hand truck bottle cart. We went ahead and made ours. There's a couple different styles out there. If you come and take my class and want a project, I'd love for this to be made a little bit better, a little bit more secure. So just as a project idea for you guys. So I'm gonna take my bottle, like I said, I'm just gonna roll it around. I could also move the cart closer, you know, work smarter, not harder. And then I'm just gonna kind of work it up into this cart. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna wrap the chain around it. So now I got my bottle cart and I'm ready to go. All I can do is I can just need to push it back and we can go ahead and take it anywhere we want. All right, so I got my bottle, my new bottle I should say, and I'm gonna put it back on. Again, I'm just gonna kind of wiggle it up onto this ramp. And it just kind of works back and forth. And I'm gonna make sure that it's all the way up into the saddle, it's all the way forward. One one kind of helpful thing to know is the chain will not actually hook on if it's not all the way in place. So make sure you reattach that chain on there. It's our main safety device. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in and I wanna walk through the process of reattaching our regulator, and then we're gonna leak test it. And I'm also gonna show you guys how to actually check it and make sure that the air is running at the correct CFM. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove our blast cap here. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab my regulator, because again, it's still connected to the welder, so it should be just sitting right here. I'm gonna put this in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna screw down my fitting. Okay, I'm gonna grab my 1 1/8" again. Notice that I don't use crescent wrenches. This thing is all brass. You could easily kind of scrape it or not get a very good catch on it with that combination wrench, or not a combination wrench, I'm sorry, crescent wrench, and cause this thing to strip out. So please grab the correct wrenches, all right? We're gonna go ahead and just tighten this thing down. One thing I like to make sure I do is I give it a little bit of a forward kick to it, so that way when I tighten it, it comes back up level, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, oops, not quite enough forward. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to leak test it, but I only need to leak test this joint right here, all right? So I'm gonna stand back, turn it on. I'm going to go ahead, turn it all the way on, because this is a double seat valve and all of these shielding gas bottles all the way open, okay? I'm gonna take my soapy water and I'm just going to spray it. I'm not gonna show you guys what a leaking fitting looks like. I did that in one of the earlier videos when I was talking about the oxyacetylene. I showed you that those bubbles would be huge and they'd be expanding, so it'd be very easy to notice a leak, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to plug this thing in, and I'm gonna show you how to actually set this to the correct CFM. The CFM range that I'm gonna be working in is probably 25 to 30. That seems to be like a pretty common range for me, depending on the type of welding you're doing. So some people will probably argue with that, but that's where I'm gonna set it today. If you make sure you wanna look at your directions that you're gonna be running with and make sure that you have it set to the correct CFM. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in and let's take a look at that. All right, so looking at this faceplate of our wire feed, this is the wire feed on top of the welder. We have these two switches down here. I'm not gonna get into explaining the rest of this, we'll do that in a different video, but the main one I wanna point out is gonna be this guy right here. Now, this is a 3-position switch, so the center is a neutral. If you go all the way up, so if you click it up, it's actually going to roll the wire out, and so if you wanted to, shoot out like 1 inch of wire and cut it, you could push this up and you would do that. But if you go down, it's going to purge the line. It's just going to shoot a little bit of gas. So let me show you what the actual regulator is doing while I'm pushing this down, okay? So when I push this down, you can notice that this ball is raised. If I take this guy, I'm just holding that lever down. If I go all the way low, it's going to be running this many CFM. If I go all the way up, it's going to be running this much. Now there's a scale on the side that's a little bit hard to see if you're trying to hold the switch down. So I'm going to let go of the switch, and then let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at this AR side, because remember, we're running 75-25, and that is 75% argon and then 25% CO2. So what we're going to do is I want to put the ball right here into that 35 range using the dial. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little bit. There you go. So I'm going to use this dial and I'm going to go press the switch. So go ahead and watch that. All right, so I'm going to go right about there. All right. So if I'm having problems where I'm not getting enough gas, I might go up. If I'm noticing that I'm getting a lot of turbulence in my puddle, I'm going to go down. Okay, but this is a good range to start with. All right, so that should give you guys a good idea of how to change out a bottle. If you guys need any help, please let me know. This is not a physically intense process. Everybody's like, oh, I can't move those bottles around, this and that. These are not that heavy, and they are not dangerous to be moved around by hand. Okay, just make sure you do use the carts if you are going a long distance, and please do not be trying to lift these things or anything like that. All right, so good luck. Let me know if I can do anything to help you guys.